Welcome back. Wrist Cheese Radio Podcast, episode 25, quarter century mark. In your home for horological hot takes, taboo topics, and unpopular watch opinions. I'm one of your hosts, Bro Dinky, and with me, as always, is my co-host Schmidt. Schmidt, what's going on?
Oh, man, just living the dream. Coming back after a very busy week of releases and things since we dropped even our last podcast episode covering watches and wonders. So it's been good. It's been good to see some other stuff trickle out and get some exposure on the interwebs. How are things with you?
Busy, to say the least. It's a bit of a momentous day for me. Coincidentally, episode 25, I today broke the 25,000 follows mark. So that was big. Pretty cool. I was at work and I knew I was close, and I just kind of kept updating every few minutes, and I was like, all right, there it is. And it kind of feels the same as before, but I do for everybody who has been keeping score, I do have a strap giveaway going on again with Bontemps bands. They seem like every time I have a nice round number coming up of follow benchmark, they offer to put out another custom Brodinky NATO. So keep an eye out for that. I have both traditional Bond, the silver and black, and then also the red, green, black style Bond NATO with the B logo on it. And again, same as always, however many I have is however many winners I'll pick. I got a few different hardware finishes, black PVD, brushed, 20 millimeter, 22 millimeters. So I guess just the order of who I draw you in is kind of going to be how you get to pick your NATO. It's always a lot of fun. I know people like those because I don't do them again. We just either find a new design or that's that, So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, man, I think that's going to be great. I mean, I love those bands. I don't own one personally, but they look fantastic.
Yeah, I obviously have a few because, this isn't the first time I'm doing that. But,
yeah.
But they're they're very soft, and, it's cool to have a little customization on there. Like, it's not just like the same old NATO, but they're nice and soft. They're single pass only. So whenever I make jokes about chucking NATO keepers or castrating them, as some people call them, he always hops on the comments section. It's like, well, you could always just go single pass.
You could.
He's always in there somewhere. But yeah, so I got that going on. Other than that, just super busy with work and trying to keep up with, I guess, the news. I really didn't see much else trickle out that was too crazy from Watches and Wonders. The last few days I feel like I just saw people eating fondue, and that was the bulk of the content coming out. I mean, no shade of fondue. I mean, who doesn't like dipping stuff in cheese or chocolate? But
oh yeah, for sure.
That was the bulk.
I mean, I did see a couple things trickle out that just weren't covered as heavily as some of the other releases or novelties during the kind of the brunt of the week. Like I mentioned to you offline, it's like Rolex apparently updated their Sea Dweller and Deep Sea. Not a big thing I think anybody knew or anybody really cared about, but apparently they did. And I think it has now a titanium case back.
I saw the picture when I saw novelties. I saw the picture of it, and I really didn't know what or why. And that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's like everyone's too busy paying attention to the upside down GMT to really give that any thought or credence. And cool, it's a minor update for them. Didn't increase water resistancy at all or anything like that. But I guess now it has a case back in titanium, and it actually is stamped. It says RLX TI or RLX titanium on the case back.
Okay.
But again, who cares? It's a watch I'll never be able to get, and it's irrelevant. Obviously, nobody covered it. Cartier had some cool stuff. I think there was like a Santos Dumont that had like a lacquered case. Yeah. I don't know if we touched on that on last episode, but it was there. There was one that had like it's kind of like part of their mystery series. The movement was inside the rotor. Interesting stuff. Looks beautiful, but as you and I pointed out, like I don't want to stare at my arm hair.
Yeah, for me that's
Uh,
a no-go.
if you got some serious arm hair, like you definitely don't want to be looking at that through your watch. Um, so there's that, and also it just comes to like not being a super practical watch to wear daily. I mean, it's not a. It's I can't imagine that has a pretty high modicum of shock resistance. Just it can't.
Yeah,
It can't.
you would think if you bang that thing pretty good, it's going to do some damage.
It's yeah. It that's also one of the important things about a movement too, is it provides shock absorption by having bridges and main plates. So by the fact that it doesn't, it's gonna be a very delicate watch to wear. But I mean, some little things like that. And I mean, that thing was really super crazy. I think we kind of covered everything watches and wonders wise, if you will, on episode 24. But I don't know. Just again, to echo it, I was just, I wasn't super impressed with everything. As we mentioned, there was a lot of brands that did cool stuff, which was surprising and refreshing. But overall, it's just kind of like, eh. That's kind of my sentiment. It's just, eh.
Yeah, it kind of went out with without a bang, I guess.
It really did. It really did. I think that's a great way to say it. It's like we were all expecting
Even
the
just
bang, but it
one,
just never
even
came.
just one more something. Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
like the end of the Marvel movie where you get the little clip at the end that, oh, okay.
I will say this. I did like Moser bringing the troll level to another threshold, just like they do every single time.
The Vanta Black and stuff.
The Vanta Black, and then
That
for
was
the
cool
for
though.
the Vanta Black watch was super cool, and it was super funny. There's that guy. I don't know if you follow him, Black Badger. He does
No.
all the crazy stuff with like loom, and he makes like rings and stuff, and he's partnered with a few different brands to like do like high vis loom technology. Anyway, he was commenting on the thread. This guy like does stuff specifically with these different type of materials, and he was like commenting in the thread. He's like, man, I don't really know how they did this, because Vanta Black is like a seriously delicate material. Like you'll breathe on it and it will come off.
Yeesh.
Like it's so delicate. He's like, it's one thing to make a dial out of the material because it's like it's fully encased. He's like, but I'm really wondering if they made like how they achieved the case and the bracelet and everything to have that coating, because he's like, it's certainly not wearable. And and then for Moser to come out like, yeah, it's totally not wearable. We just wanted to do it. I was like, that's kind of that. I mean, that's just Moser, right? And even their CEO is like, yeah, we made a third watch in this case, and you can't see it because it's completely invisible.
Dude, but
It's
you
like,
really, I mean, it really did look like floating hands in the black
yeah,
box. I was like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
what?
Yeah, it was certainly very cool. Now, if somebody somewhere down the road can figure out how a way to seal the Vanta Black to make it, wear resistant, I think
Yeah.
that would be super gangster. But as of right now, it's completely irrelevant, which is kind of, I think, the underscored message for Watches and Wonders. It was just completely irrelevant. Moonswatch for life.
I mean, hey, again, I don't know who could have thought that not even necessarily Swatch Group, Swatch the company would be so relevant right now.
Yeah, they torpedoed Watches and
They
Wonders
really did.
in the most epic fashion imaginable.
And everybody I
And
know is they're on
every
there reloading that website every single day.
every single day to see if they can get a Moonswatch. And I know a few people that have picked them up since then.
So Lorenzo got one.
Yeah, Lorenzo got one in Vegas. He was able to sneak in there and get one. His fiance was with him, so she got one as well. So he ended up with the Mars edition. She got the Venus, which
Men
pretty
are from
apropos.
Mars.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's kind of funny, but it also makes sense.
Yeah.
So they have them. He said it was a really fun watch. The loom apparently is pretty good too. So just little things like that. I think it's been pretty cool to see people get them. I'm super jealous, and I certainly do want that watch for sure. And I know it's most likely going to be my next purchase. But today we're going to be talking about kind of a similar subject. Wouldn't you say, bro?
Yeah, I'll take it on the chin for this one because I pulled a bit of an underhanded thing. I happened to add something to my collection recently, and
You did.
I didn't. You know what it is? I don't like to put it out there like and like alert people, hey, I got something today. Look what I feel like it feels like me throwing it in their face or being like, oh, look what I got. Like, I don't know. If it just doesn't feel that great. So I gotta just let it come out little by little. But I wound up picking up one of those Nevada Grinchen Super Antarctics. The one, so I guess for those who can't think of what I'm talking about, it looks similar to an Explorer
Ish.
ish.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, this watch did exist.
In the 50s.
Yeah, in the 50s. This wasn't like, oh, let's make an Explorer, replica. This watch did exist in their heritage line, and they brought it back. But it has a similar aesthetic, and it comes in a few different lume colors. You can get it with like a cream lume or white or sort
The
of
greenish tint,
that
right?
orish, like that Oris always on type of tint to it.
Yeah.
That's the one I got, was the greenish tint, because there's not a lot out there like that. The contrast on the dial is also very good. So I grabbed that. I got it on the beads of rice because I've never owned a beads of rice.
Really?
Yeah, no, I've never had a watch with a beads of rice on it. So that's
Okay,
cool. That's a
okay.
new experience in itself. But right now I just have it on a leather strap, and it's pretty awesome. Wears really great. 37 millimeters, I think it is.
Oh man, I thought it was 38, so it's even smaller.
I think
That's
it's
even
37. It doesn't wear small because it's pretty
Yeah.
much all dial,
Yeah.
more or
And
less.
the lugs are kind of long, not too long, I think, but they're very distinctive if I remember correctly. They have kind of like this like
A lot
really
of
drastic
angling.
curve to
Yep.
them. Which I think is very cool. So overall, since you've owned the watch, how has it been? Since I mean, we talked about this watch several episodes back, about how we both kind of wanted one, but you have it now. So what is it like?
It's honestly great. It's nice and lightweight. Wears really nice. I really have nothing to complain about it. Somebody else I know said that they find the crown to be a bit small. I don't,
Okay.
but I think that's just because I've had vintage watches that have small crowns anyway. But
Yeah,
but no,
exactly.
some people have
Yeah, they normally are very small,
some people have sausage fingers. I could see where that would be a little bit of a pain in the neck. So
Yeah.
I get that, but not a complaint for me.
Okay. Okay.
The movement winds. I don't want to say it winds stiff, but it winds like a new movement, and brand
Yeah.
new out of the box. It's a soap prod, so it's like a clone.
Okay.
But yeah, overall, really great. Loom's awesome.
Is it?
Yeah, I really don't have any complaints, so I'm enjoying wearing that for now. And that is going to trickle into our episode topic here. I wound up with that because of the episode we were talking about that had me looking at it for weeks at a time, and then they were coming up to their delivery period, and I was like, well, if I don't grab one of these now, it's probably not going to happen. They're not badly priced. And when things are like that, where they're not outrageously expensive, I think you can risk it for the biscuit once in a while
Yeah, for sure.
and say, you know what, it's under $1,000. I could probably sell it for what I got it for. If I really don't like it, take a shot.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did. I definitely think it'll be a keeper. It fills a nice niche in my collection that I don't really have, especially because I have moved another exploration watch recently. I did end up moving my Explorer too, not because of anything Rolex related. It was the right thing to do. Let's just say,
Okay.
taking care of some real life stuff, and you think about what's going to sell fast, what's going to net me the best return. Overall, easy choice. So
Yeah, for sure.
So I did move on my Explorer too, and actually somebody who follows me bought it. So
Oh, well, that's even better.
that's
even
cool.
better.
So
They got a Brodinky special.
yeah. So that's cool. But so it's filling that gap nicely. So today we're going to be talking about basically watches that have sort of been on our radar that maybe we haven't warmed up to enough to pull the trigger, or even maybe just a brand that we've been trying to break into but haven't found that entry point. I know you and I talked about Nevada Grinchen for a while.
Yes.
We
Absolutely.
very much like their aesthetics overall between the Depth Master and the Aviation Chronograph, Sea Diver, whatever you want to call it, 18 names. They
It
definitely have
does have a
some
lot of names.
they definitely have some cool stuff, but it's one of those things where you're like, well, which one do I go with, right? I'm gonna have if I'm gonna break it eventually, like which one? Because even like the Depth Master is 38 millimeters and it's
Yeah.
shaped like a Panerai, and you're like, I don't know how that's gonna wear. It might be amazing, might be
Too small.
too small, might be kind of what we thought with the Black Bay Pro, or it might be compact, but it also might be thick. Because that's 1,000 meter diver, I'm pretty sure.
Is it?
I think so. So I can't imagine it's crazy thin.
Unless it's 300 meters at 1,000 feet.
Could be. Maybe that was it. But I thought it said 1,000 meter. Regardless. I mean, if you're going to call it the Depth Master, it's got to be able to do something, right?
You would think.
Yeah. Needless to say. I think if you're a psycho like me, I keep a running list in my notes on my phone of watches either to keep an eye out for or like watches that I have it in for that I make an offshoot one direction or another, whether it be like to a sister brand or to like something else that fills the same concept or similar idea that I can kind of jump to from there. Like stuff that I'm trying to fill out with my own collection, or things that I really like the idea of or the look of that I can bounce around from. So I don't know if you're a psycho like me, but I have a list running, and we can kind of go through that.
I definitely don't keep a running list because I feel like I would have to change it like every day. It certainly does evolve quite often, but there's always something that I think for me, it's more so the idea that if I think about it enough and it's in the back of my head, kind of nagging at me enough, then I don't need to commit it to physical paper. It's in my memory and it's warranted because I keep thinking about it, not because I wrote it down. Right. So there's that. I will say this before we get into it. You are right. The Death Master is 1,000-meter watch.
Cha-chang.
That is pretty impressive
Yeah.
in a 38 millimeter case. Kind of makes you wonder, like, what the hell is everybody else doing that we can make a 38 millimeter case 1,000 meters water resistant?
It's a little thought provoking.
Yeah, it certainly is and that's with an integrated automatic helium escape valve. So that's pretty interesting.
And
it makes that watch a little bit more appealing to me now.
I'm pretty sure it comes in either right at or a little below 1,000.
Yeah, it's like around 1,100, like around the 1,100 price point, I think is what it is.
And I think that depends if you get a bracelet.
1078 or something like that. Yeah. Okay, so do you want to kick it off?
Well, before it might be a nice segue, because this is just something we were talking about offline, going from Moonswatch, because everybody's big joke was, I can't wait for the Rolex Timex collab. Timex is doing something, I don't know if it's trolly or what, but their designer, one of the Giorgio Galli, he's been dropping these pics of this Timex Q GMT, which seems a little too timely given what Rolex just put out. And it's not destro, it doesn't have any weird date placements, but so far I've seen all black with a red GMT hand. Now I see a Batman that he just put up.
But this isn't on the website yet, is it?
No, it's just on his Giorgio Galli Design Lab Instagram.
Okay.
And it's got the Rolex sort of look. It's got a Mercedes-ish hand. It doesn't have the Mercedes hand, but it has the like blank Mercedes hand.
Yeah, right. It's just a circle.
Yeah, but they have a Batman I'm looking at. If they have a green one, because they have one in the queue already, if they have a green one, this will be massive level troll.
I can't wait.
And honestly, the bracelet looks pretty cool on this. I don't know what it is, but it looks pretty awesome. That now they have Tropics, which is also pretty cool.
So this is a Q Timex GMT quartz. So it's still quartz. It doesn't get the automatic treatment yet, but it is a Q Timex GMT quartz, and it looks really good. And for those of you who don't follow this gentleman, you should. It's kind of interesting. He's the guy that was doing kind of the collaborations for the more expensive Timex the kind of fancy looking Timex, which is something that I would certainly own. I think it looks really, really, really good.
I think it got
But
good reviews too, from what I saw.
yeah, for sure. But I think that this is also very cool because it now gives the Q Timex more of that travel time function because it already has a GMT bezel.
Yeah,
It just didn't have the GMT complication. So it's pretty cool to see this, and I like it. And for those of you who also don't know and haven't been following Timex, because in preparation for this podcast, we were doing a little research. The Q that Timex has been famously selling for a few years now is now available on a silicone Tropic style strap on the website. So you can order it that way. I'm still trying to figure out if it's possible to order the strap by itself. Can't find that yet. But if you've been on the fence about the Q because of the bracelet and like its arm pinching and hair pinching abilities, this might be a nice alternative to buy it on, and it's a little bit less than the bracelet version.
and it gives it a little bit of a sporty look to it.
It looks good, man. It looks really, really good. And I like to your point too. I also like the bracelet on this version. It reminds me a lot of the. This is a little bit more obscure, but are you familiar with Holzer?
Yes,
You're familiar with Holzer for the Speedmaster?
the Mexican Holzer.
Yes. There's not a lot of people who are familiar with this, but
I only know
Holzer
that
was like,
because of, I think Uncle Seiko remade it.
yes, that's right. Yeah. So Holzer was actually like a major, and I think they still are. They're like a major family jewelry company that was based in Mexico City. And they've been around for multiple decades as a watch retailer, seller. And at one point in time, like they were the Mexico distributor for Omega, period. Like that was it. And back then, to keep up with global demand of products, sometimes certain markets would be sent kind of the production stuff from Omega or from the other brands at the time to make them locally on site so that they could increase production and maintain production capabilities. So in this case, sometimes you'd have cases that get outsourced, and they would be made locally in Germany or locally in Canada or whatever it might be, right? So in this case, Holzer was actually manufacturing bracelets for Omega Speedmasters sold in Mexico during the 1950s, 60s, and 70s.
So is that similar to kind of like how JB Champion did?
Yes, in some ways, but JB Champion was his own bracelet company, and they got placed on Speedmasters by the astronauts because the JB Champion bracelets were very easy to break.
I was gonna say the breakaway functionality. Yeah.
Yeah. They like during the actual like testing phases for the astronauts, like during practical stuff, for like space assignments and things, they couldn't break off the Omega bracelets quickly enough because they were too durable, even though they were folded steel, which sounds kind of funny.
Yeah.
So they opted for something that was lighter and could easily be ripped apart, which the JB Champion mesh certainly could. But what was also kind of nice for the JB Champion is it was infinitely adjustable. So you could actually size the bracelet over like the spacesuit.
Thing is freaking huge. I have
Yeah,
one of the remakes.
it can get like really big. So for the early Mercury suits that were much more tailored to the astronauts because they weren't like atmospheric suits, like they weren't doing spacewalks in them, they didn't need to be pressurized. So it's more of just like keeping you warm and keeping you, hydrated and all that stuff while you were in flight. So it didn't need to be like this massive, fat puffy suit like we saw with Gemini and Apollo.
Very interesting. But yeah, back to your point though, when I'm thinking about that Holzer remake, it does remind me of this bracelet.
Yeah, it has these like this two row of like little polished links down it. It just adds some visual contrast to the rest of the bracelet. It's really cool, but certainly something that was more basically based out of like Central and South America.
Yeah. So I think that will segue us into things we've been looking at because Timex that was sort of their watch that I think brought a lot of people back to them.
Yes.
Or for people who kind of overlooked them or were like, I've never gotten into Timex, I don't really have a reason to. I think that was kind of
Yeah, it was certainly
their mood swatch to an effect, right? It was like,
yeah.
I gotta have
I
one.
mean, there was really two that come to mind for me. Certainly the Q, but I think the Marlin is what really started it. Because the Marlin was when they first came back and they were doing like the hand wind, like acrylic crystal 1950s watch. I think they still sell it, but it's like 34 millimeter, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, that was like their first like reissue of anything. And then shortly thereafter, like, here's a Q Timex, and everyone's like, whoa, integrated quartz Timex with a Pepsi bezel. All right, let's go. And I think to your point, that's when Timex like started doing watch collector stuff and stuff that appealed to us and in a mass market, not some grandpa is going to buy a watch so he can read the time. It was like this was a collector's piece now.
I think there are brands that I think I'm either looking to get back into or just looking to get into in general. And for me, and this was inspired by a very recent release, I've been looking for an excuse to get back into Hamilton and these new 38 millimeter titanium khaki field autos. This might be it.
They look good, man.
I liked the previous one, but it had that etching in the side. It said titanium down the side.
Yeah.
And I was like, because they had a really cool colorway. It was black. It's just
so Invicta when they do that. I'm just like, why?
They had this black PVD colorway with like a really like almost like a peanut butter colored loom, and it looked really good on the numerals and everything. But the titanium etching on the side like really, really scared me away. And then I saw these new ones, and I saw.
Does it still have it though?
No, it doesn't.
Are you sure?
Yes, because that was like one of the big points on the post I saw was they ditched the titanium etching on the side.
Okay, because I just saw a photo of one that did have it, but it might have been the older, bigger version.
Yeah, this one's 38 millimeters, and I saw Cole rocking it around, so it looked pretty good. It's got a couple of different dial colors, a couple different finishes.
Oh, I see that. Yeah. And these are 38, and they're not just mechanical. These are automatic.
These are auto, yeah.
Okay, that's a difference. That's a departure for sure.
Also a different color.
Yeah, I like that. The dial's not quite as clean as the mechanical versions,
right?
Because you have a little bit more stuff going on, but it makes sense. This kind of like blackened titanium with like this moon rock looking.
That looks good. That's my favorite one.
What is the dial made out of?
I don't know, but it's got some nice texture to it.
Is it concrete?
Seiko did that recently in a 5, no less.
What is this dial made out of?
You could ask the Google.
It doesn't say. And this is the H10, so this is an 80-hour power reserve, automatic. Looks good, man.
Yep. 100 meters, 80 hours.
It looks good, and that's a nice stealthy watch.
Yeah, it is, and it just looks really good. And I don't know, I can't tell if they still had the previous ones had a little bit of like a pie panning on the dial. I can't tell if these ones have it.
It doesn't look like the gray one does because it's like it's got that texture to it because it's more like it looks like it's more flat with the difference being the texture, right? The other two colorways, it looks like they have like this concentric circle pattern, like where the numerals 12, 1, 2, 3 go around. So it looks like there might be some like a step up and a step down almost. And there's a black version of that, and there's kind of like a light green version, and it looks like those are kind of the same. I mean, these look good.
Yeah,
I don't know how I missed these, but I guess
they kind of snuck out like today.
Yeah, like well, I guess they're also not like watches and wonders novelties, right? So they didn't probably get all the major fanfare because they weren't released at Watches and Wonders.
But yeah, you're gonna get something nice, lightweight, everyday wear, solid as a rock, titanium. So
yeah,
and now all those scratches and beatings that you put on your Hamilton. I don't know if you ever owned a titanium watch before, but when I had a Pelagos, you scratch it, the scratch is there, but like titanium develops almost like a film over it, and it gets like hazy looking, but it
Yeah.
really visually eliminates the scratches. They're still there, but it's
Yeah,
cosmetically
yeah,
you like lose them.
it's almost like self-healing is what I've heard about
It's
titanium.
pretty cool.
Again, I've never owned a titanium watch. I really couldn't speak to it, but what I've heard people describe to me is it's almost like it just goes away on its own. I'm like, how does that work? I'm not sure, but that would make sense. It just kind of like develops a patina over
Yeah,
it that
that's
just
exactly what it is.
cool, man. I've never seen that before. I've been wanting a titanium watch for a while. I haven't decided on what I want to do in titanium.
Too bad they didn't drop that yacht master.
You know, not like anybody could get it anyway. I'm so done with talking about Rolex. I don't even want to talk
Yeah,
about them
that
ever
was
again.
part of the inspiration behind this episode was to not mention them enough.
Just, just, I just can't anymore. It's just so mentally and physically exhausting that I just have no desire. That's really what it comes down to. So,
So what's on your list?
so one of those watches that's always stuck around in the back of my mind that I've just never committed to, and I don't know why because I absolutely love it. And I know people that have had the different versions of it. They've collected it. I've worn it. I know that I like it, but it just comes to be one of those things that there's always something else that takes precedent when I'm making that decision. And for me, that's the Rano Captain Cook. Like I love it. You guys know about my collection. I'm a dive watch collector. I love everything that they're producing. I think that it's a fantastic design. Whether you go more on the vintage end and you go 37, you go more on the contemporary end, 42. There's just a lot of really good options here. The colors are fantastic. There's a multitude of materials. You can now get full ceramic. You can get bronze. You can get steel. There's special editions and special colorways. Like it's just an awesome watch. And for whatever reason, I just can't pull the trigger. But I love the watch. I don't know. It's Have you ever tried on a Captain Cook?
I have not, but
Oh,
I do like them because they have roulette date wheels on a lot of them.
they do. They do have the roulettes, and you can get most of the models either on beads of rice or kind of like a contemporary 3-link style bracelet. Beads of rice is the only way to go on this watch, in my opinion. And then promptly switch that bad boy out to a tropic. Like it's like it looks like that. And there's so many cool color. Like they were doing green like a few years ago before green was popular. They have a nice kind of like gray color that looks fantastic. And one of the things that I really like about the Captain Cook, even though it's like a larger proportion, like if you go 42, it's a larger watch, but it wears really well. Lug to lug is so good, but there's so much visual depth on the watch itself that makes it really, really, really sexy. I love the big fat broad arrow. It's very like Omega esque, from the 1950s, but it has like a concave ceramic bezel. So the ceramic bezel literally like slants downward into the dial, and it has a double dome sapphire crystal. It really gives this nice distortion. It's a very clean dial text, nothing crazy. And I love all the little Rados with automatic, winding movements. The little logo of Rado actually rotates. So like the little medallion that's on the dial will swing back and forth.
That's
And that
actually
was
pretty cool.
yeah, that was actually how Rado historically used to present watches to their dealers. They always had that on the dial to showcase to them that it was automatic winding, which is kind of funny. So they kept it. So like literally the little logo of Rado will actually swing around the dial in addition to the regular rotor. Like it doesn't wind the watch, but it just is a signifier that it is a mechanical automatic watch. I just love it. I just think
Kind
they're
of neat.
quirky and they're fun. And yeah, man, I think that they're fantastic.
They
So
released that one in bronze not that long ago. I think it had like a
yes.
burgundy dial. That looked really
Mhm.
good.
Yeah, the burgundy bronze. And I think that there was a blue. I'm looking at the website right now. So there was a burgundy, a blue, a green, and then like a grayish brown, all on bronze. And you could get it either on NATO or you could get it on a color match leather strap.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty overlooked model or brand
Yeah.
overall.
Yeah. I mean, it's just not super popular here in the US. I mean, it's becoming more so, I think. But, for most people, it's just not like the watch that they're going to like run out and go grab. And that's why I asked you if you had ever tried one on, because like they make the Captain Cook in 37,
Yeah,
like in
that's a
the
money
original
size.
size. In the original size. And it's just like it's so good. I had I had a friend of mine who, when they first relaunched the Captain Cook, they released it in a new, like they released like a 45 millimeter, which is like a contemporary size. And then they did like a heritage limited edition, which was the original in 37. And he bought it and he's like, what do you think about the size and everything? I was like, I think this looks fantastic in the size, because the way the crystal is, it like makes it like super legible, that even though it's small, the bubble effect of it is just, it makes it so easy to see and read. And later on, Revolution and Rado did a collaboration, which was like, years and years ago now, where they released that same watch in 37, but in a completely gray dial, gray ceramic, and they called it the Ghost Captain. And I was like, that is the most cool ass name for a watch. God, I want this watch so bad. And then they made it even better by releasing in 42 as well. So I don't know, man. That's a watch that's been on my radar for a long time, and I just haven't done it yet. I don't know why.
You know what's funny? They had another watch that caught my eye not that long ago. Also in 37 millimeter. It was the Golden Horse.
Yeah, that's a
It's
sick
almost like
watch too.
a dress sport type of watch,
Yes,
but very cool.
it's, yeah, man. They just do a lot of cool stuff, and they need to get more credit because they do a lot of things, and they're part of the Swatch group. And what's funny about Rado, they don't get enough credit. Like Rado was like the company that like invented high tech ceramics, like for the entire watch industry. So all of this stuff that you see with, ceramic bezels and dials and cases, like that was what they were doing in like the 60s and the 70s. So they
Yeah.
don't get enough credit for it, but quite literally, ceramic watches would not exist in the format that we have them today without Rado, which is
Like
kind of funny.
37 millimeter, 10.8 thick, 80-hour power reserve.
Like, what more could you ask for?
Why am I shopping for 15 millimeter black bays?
I mean, just like, and again, what's the price point on this? Like $1,800, $2,000?
This one is
Like,
1800.
yeah, like
Then you get another
why?
beads of rice.
Like, why would I not buy that? Especially if I was looking for my first ever like luxury watch, or something that's like an inspired purchase.
I think this would
Like,
be a
what?
very enjoyable first watch.
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? They look fantastic. And again, it's not just the looks, it's also the specs. Like 80-hour power reserve.
And it's
We're
very
not
off the
talking.
radar. It's a known
No,
name, but
yeah.
it's off the radar.
But it just looks good. I mean, and you said the thickness, you said it was 10
10,
millimeters.
10,
Like,
8. Yeah.
I mean, 11 millimeters. Like, that is like wafer thin. It's, I don't know, man. More people need to start looking at stuff that's off the beaten path,
Yeah.
because,
That's where I've been lately, man. I've been looking at all kind of weird stuff.
you know,
So I'll give you another one kind of in that same idea is, and it's not so much modern, but I've been, even for a long time, I've been looking for an excuse to get into Zodiac,
mm,
and I haven't. Again, I don't know if it's just I don't have the right model or whatever, but a lot of the vintage ones get me pretty
yeah,
good. The vintage Seawolves and the vintage Aerospace GMTs,
yeah,
they're just cool. And I know they've made reissues of them recently for both, but there's just certain references like that 50s Seawolf. It's got that like Tar Heel blue bakelite bezel on it,
Yeah, with a white
and
dial.
no, it's a black dial.
Black dial.
Yeah, black dial,
Okay.
and I've seen them on some funky old bracelets or on Tropics, and they have those triangular sort of markers at 12, 9, 6. And even with a lot of wear on it or pretty mangled loom, they still look pretty cool, and they're pretty plentiful. They're not crazy expensive,
Yeah.
especially by vintage watch standards. But like that watch is so cool, and it's either 35 or 36 millimeters for a
Yeah. Yeah.
diver.
They were small.
And keep in mind, this was a dive watch again that was around in the 50s that rivaled the Submariner.
I mean, arguably, the Zodiac Seawolf was the first dive watch. Now, there's a lot of contention whether it was a sub, whether it was the Blanc Pawn 50 fathoms, but Zodiac the Seawolf was there in that same time frame. It was
it's similar. It's a similar idea to Seiko being there with Hoyer and Zenith
exactly
for the automatic chrono. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. I mean, but you have to give them a lot of credit because they were there. Like I think the Seawolf came out in 53.
I think it is 53 because that's the model. They have a model, the 1953, I think.
Okay, yeah. So it came out in 53, which I think arguably is the same year that the Submariner was debuted, if I remember correctly. If not, then it was 55. But either way, I mean, it's a pretty important thing because they were there. And they had already come up with the design of what a dive watch should look like, right? Luminescent hands, luminescent markers, a rotating bezel for elapsed timing. Like that was the formula.
So good. They do have this, I think, in a white also, but
Okay.
it's got like a I don't know what color blue you'd call that, lilac.
I don't know, man. It's
but
just good.
looks great.
It's just good. Yeah, it's just arguably just really nice. But even their modern like reissue stuff, it's nice. I like it a lot.
That world timer is kind of cool. Hard to get stuff with a red bezel that looks
Yeah.
decent.
I think
They
they
did it. It
did
looks
that
kind of
one
cool.
for toppers, if I'm not mistaken.
Might have been.
For toppers, I think in California.
But yeah, definitely a brand I've always wanted to delve into, and I don't really know why I haven't. I'm not sure if it was maybe the whole Fossil Association, or if I just again didn't find a model that really got me. But that one might. That one might. Like I said, for a vintage watch, it's still pretty affordable and hasn't blown up. So
Yeah.
if I find the right one, it could be a contender.
Yeah, for sure. I know. I think that would be a solid choice. And they're doing some good stuff, man. I have to give them a lot of credit. Now, I will be honest and objective. They recently kind of upgraded some of their dive watch pieces. They're now kind of pushing at the top end of their Zodiac range at around like $1,700. They're basically super sea wolves, but they're like the pro diver versions.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate all of them. I think that it was a huge miss from them because it feels like they're trying to take like all of their vintage styled pieces and make like a contemporary diver out of it. And I just I don't know what it is, man. Like I just think it missed. I think these are cost certified. They're larger cases. They're 42. But for me, one of the biggest things is I absolutely hate it when watch brands feel the need to put their logo as the counterweight for their second hand. I don't know what it is about it. It just automatically turns me off to the watch. Automatically. Like this, it's just very ball-esque, like very
Yeah.
like very like Olympic Omega-esque, like when they do the Olympic watches and
Or
have
the
little rings.
007.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like it just seems so corny to me that it's just like you already have the logo on the dial, but then I have to add it to the second hand as if it's not already on the dial. So I don't know. The only one that I will say of a brand that's been able to do this that I actually really liked was Oak and Oscar
because it fits in
because
with the dial.
it fits in with the dial, but as the second hand goes around, it literally like passes over the same logo like at the bottom part of the dial, and so it blends
That's what I
in.
mean. Yeah,
Yeah,
it hits
it's
that
like
visual effect.
exactly. But an aesthetic choice that they made that was playful. This is just looks like it's like, hey, how many places can we place our logo? On the dial? Cool. On the second hand? Cool. On the crown? Cool. On the case back? Cool. Like we get it. It's Zodiac. You know what I mean? But other than that, all the other Zodiacs I like. I just these new models are just I it's more like they're like trying to step into like a pro diver type thing. I just think that they don't look good.
That and I guess I've been a little turned off by they don't really do like runs of models. It's like a short drop, and then when they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
At least recently, that's been sort of their go to. Like that Gulf edition they dropped was cool. It was like a Gulf 50/50 bezel, and that
Yeah,
sold
yeah,
out
yeah.
immediately. Now they're $5,000, and I'm like, I'm never paying that.
Yeah, yeah. And this is I'm looking at their website right now, and it has a disclaimer here. It says small batch isn't just for whiskey. Once a style sells out, it's gone until our watchmakers start a new batch. So if you see a style or colorway you love, get it while you can. It could be a while before it comes back. So there you go. Now I will say this though, I do love like the vintage Super Seawolf logo. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, I of all like watch logos for something over time, that Super Seawolf logo with like this black wolf wearing like a scuba suit and like the tank mounted on the back is just there's something so gangster about it. I don't know what it quite is, but it just looks so good. And I want one bad. Like I want one really bad. So that's watch certainly I would add to my list as well. Just not the new one. Yeah.
What else you got?
Um keeping it in the Swatch Group family, if you will, Alon Jeans. That's a brand that I have a lot of respect for. They've done a lot of cool things, and I really do want to get my hands on one. And I think I might be swayed with the new Zulu Time. I think it's a great watch, especially on leather strap. And I think for the money, what you're getting at that price point, there's literally not another GMT out there right now that I would really want to buy over that. I think it looks good.
Hard to beat in that package.
Yeah, man. And the price point's insane. It's like just around the $2,000 price point for an in-house Longines movement. It's got a high power reserve. It's got, I think, like new silicon components for the hairspring. It's a true GMT. Great size specs at 42. Like it just looks good. And I'd buy that every single day over a Black Bay Pro.
And they seem to make 42 pretty wearable from what I've experienced
Yeah.
with them. Like I've tried on the
Yeah.
Legend, the Avigation Big Eye. They seem to be able to get away with 42, where sometimes you see 42 and you're like, this might be at the top of my size range.
And keep in mind, a lot of those watches historically were just larger anyway because they were aviation watches. You
Yeah,
needed
you
to be
need to
able
see
to
'em.
see them, right? So it made sense. So yeah, the new Zulu Time from Longines, I think for me would be a watch I'd want to get into for sure.
One brand that I've been dying to get into, and I don't think I'm alone in this one, and I really, again, have just not found the right model. And I think it's because Zinn's catalog is so black, red. Like it's very, if you're not into those colors or in a specific arrangement of those colors, it's going to be hard to find something you really like. I mean, I know they just put out some colorful stuff. They've done some mother of pearl and things, but there's a lot of models I like. I like the U50. I like the 556. I like the 356. I like the 104. Like there's a lot to like there.
Right.
And there's a lot of variations they do on each one of those. Like the 556, there's like a ton of different ones you can go with. Like there's ones with numerals, there's ones with stick indices, some have a red hand on them. You can get variations in there. But again, if you're not into sort of that Zin colorway, and I
Yeah,
know
it's a little bit more
people
difficult.
have said, "Oh, well, they do some stuff here and there." Yeah, but if you go on their website, I'm still looking at 98% black and red. Right? Like
Yeah, for
I
sure.
know they've done like some U1s with the safari theme or like a sand theme type of deal. But those are usually small batch.
Right.
And that was why when I saw that blue dial U50, I said, this is something different. Like this is something I could really like potentially.
Yeah. It looks good, man.
But
It
I
looks
mean,
really good.
there's a lot of reasons to want to get into that brand, right? They do sort of that over engineering that everybody kind of covets. I know they use Solita movements usually, but they're definitely modified. And not that they're bad. I mean, half the world used ETA movements before,
Yeah.
right? So, an ETA clone's not really gonna let you down too bad.
No, I mean, again, it's a watch movement that can be serviced, it can be worked on, it can be worn for many, many, many years with great reliability. I think it's awesome. I'm a big fan of their 358 line, that kind of like day date chronograph.
Yeah,
I think that looks really good. But my favorite Zin is did you ever see the Hunter's watch?
I think
It's
I
like a
have.
chronograph, but it they call it the hunting watch or the hunter's watch. It won like a German design award in 2020. But basically it was like a green dial with light green like hands and markers and stuff.
Okay.
And it had like a moon phase and 24-hour indicator, day date, or I'm sorry, day of the week, month. It had like all of these things, pointer date indication. And basically, it was a watch designed to be used by hunters
Okay, I see
to
this.
track like the lunar cycles and things like that. So, when it was like full moon, so you could get maximum visibility while hunting, like all of these things. It's not something that I would like actively use as a hunting
This
watch,
is
but
actually really cool.
I just thought it was like super cool that this would be a watch that would be focused around that specific hobby. I am a hunter, and I thought that this was pretty awesome. Everybody came out with something like this because I don't know of anybody else that has done anything like this in quite some time.
This reminds me of just the way the layout and the color scheme kind of reminds me of the Zenith poker chip, just because there's so much going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which is another watch I like, but no chance of getting one of those.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, isn't it kind of weird this watch?
This is very quirky, but in like a great way.
Yeah,
There's so much utility on here.
yeah. And again, it's like all of these functions can still be used for other things, but the idea was like for hunters, like you have a 24-hour scale, so when day night
Yeah, day
indication
night
is,
indicator, pointer date.
right. We had the pointer date, so it's very easy to know what the date is, what the month, what the actual day is as well. So if you're on remote locations and you're hunting, or you're in different places where you know daylight might be longer or shorter depending on where you are in the year or seasons or geographically, whatever it might be. And full moon, I mean, uh, for us, many of us, we take full moons for granted because it's like, oh, look, the moon is full today. But for hunters, having full moon means that you will have extra light over whatever, hunting field you might be working on. And if you do any hunting at night, when a lot of animals are active, it can give you an extra edge, which is pretty interesting. So I just thought that this watch was very well thought out and very well designed. And I just love the colors because it doesn't look like another Zin that I am aware of in their collection.
Not at all.
I love it, dude. I saw a obscure article. I think Fratello wrote it, or maybe it was something that Cole Pennington covered. I forget who turned me on to this watch, but I just thought it was the craziest and the coolest looking thing that I'd seen in a while.
Wow. I didn't know
Yeah.
this existed.
Now all of our listeners do, and they're gonna be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go get that hunting watch." I'm like,
And it's
"Damn
it's
it."
got the AR. It means it's filled with argon, I think.
Yes, yes, yes. Argon gas.
It's an inert gas, noble even.
Very noble. But yeah, cool, right?
Definitely. I mean, that's an out there watch.
It is. It is. So moving on for me, uh, I know I've roasted them at length before on the podcast,
Yeah, everybody
but I
loves a
feel
redemption story.
I do, and I think especially after last week, for me, I want to tag. I think it's something that I would have never thought I would have openly said. I mean, I've always been a fan of the Monaco. Don't get me wrong, and I would love to own a Monaco, because I think that's just a fantastic watch. But I think the new tag, the Solar Racer, was for me very cool to see, and I think just purely from like a perspective of just buying a watch to just put on and use whenever you don't want to bust out your super nice watches. I think this is a certainly a very good value proposition. I think it looks fantastic. Um, I think it's going to offer people a lot of usability, and it's just cool from like an aesthetic standpoint. The fact that they've forged carbon and superluminova in this bezel, I just think it looks cool. So that's a watch I think I would want to add to my collection. Haven't really thought about adding a tag before. Seriously, like I would wear them. We talked about before too with my love of the Night Diver that they came out with. Like I love that watch. I think it's fantastic, and I've seen it. I still like it in person as well. This new Solar Racer I think would be equally fun to get.
I have heard people complain that it is. I think it's 3 grand.
The Solar Racer.
Yeah.
I haven't checked the price point of it yet, so that could be a determining factor. But yeah,
And I mean, you really
tag.
can't go wrong with any of their chronographs.
No,
Like I know
but I
somebody
mean,
who had I know somebody who had a Octavia chronograph with the beads of ice, and it was pretty cool.
yeah,
It was chunky, but like
yeah.
it's
Those watches proportions were a little bit too chunky for me.
actually I heard something interesting that I don't think I heard that Tag doesn't own them anymore. That they're owned by LVMH now.
I think that that's probably true, but it begs the question: like, why not go back to just Boyer?
Well, that's what I'm saying. And then why not actually do something with the brand?
I don't know, man. I think that that's maybe what happens when you're 26 years old and you're running a multi-billion-dollar watch company.
I mean, maybe they're in transition. I don't know, but
And see what's crazy is like I'm on the website right now. I can't even find the Solar Racer. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. There's no way the Solar Racer could be $3,000. The Night Diver is 3,500.
I thought I saw like 29.50.
Dude, that would be a lot for that watch. Now I'm like trying to find this. They do not make it easy. Like, I'm like trying to find novelties, and it's like it's not even coming up. So what's up, Tag?
Probably have to go to some Watches Wonders article.
Oh, I guess they relaunched their twin time. That's cool.
Well, Peter would be excited.
He would be excited. He loves a twin time. He loves twinning on that time all the time. Yeah, it's not even listed as a novelty. Did they already cancel it?
Is it the isograph?
God, don't even get me started on that. Yeah, it's legitimately not even listed.
Maybe it's too novel right now.
I mean, but they have that like plasma ceramic quartz watch on here, so apparently not novel enough. Now I'm kind of like, what the hell? Okay, solar graph. All right, now it's coming up. Let's see. See, I'm liking this photo. It's like laying on some rocks and it's doing cool stuff. Telling me about the solar technology. Where's the price?
I can't even remember who covered it for Watches and Wonders. I'll just
It,
find it.
it just like why is there no price? Yeah, it doesn't say. Well, now I'm nervous.
Oh, here you go. So a block to watch. The Hoyer Aquarius Professional 200 Solargraph stands at 2950.
Wow. Man, 2950.
A little bit of a
No.
tougher sell.
Yeah. Yeah. That's gonna be a watch. I'm gonna have to find a nice AD around to give me a nice fat discount on that one.
You're gonna just have to buy it off some sap on the internet. Your loss is my gain.
It's always the story, right? Just didn't connect with it.
One last watch that I got in my chamber, and I think the recent drop has probably cured this. I know everybody went hot and heavy on the PRX. I think that chronograph drop they just made, given that the proportions aren't bad, IRL might be the one that takes the cake because that thing looks good.
Which colorway?
I like the blue a lot.
I think the blue's very sharp.
Yeah,
The green, because I think the green version too. If I remember correctly, I think that one looks really, really good.
gives me like a little bit of a Zenith vibe somehow, but
Yeah, why buy a Defy when you could buy that, right?
well, they just axed the Defy, so good luck with that.
R.I.P. Defy.
And yeah, I don't know what the hell else they're gonna put out because at this point it's just pretty much El Primeros.
Yeah, for
But
real. Let's see here if I can find the PRX.
that is another
Chrono.
brand I'd like to get into, but they are not cheap.
Zenith.
They are
No,
not
man,
cheap.
it's like Breitling. Like I
Nah,
would love to. I would love to buy
exactly.
a Navitimer, but like, why am I going to spend
Yeah.
$9,000 on a Navitimer? You know?
Yeah, I would love an El Primero, like one of the classy ones, but steep.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, and they updated a lot of the PRXs too. There's like a green dial standard is now like a leather strap version.
They got one with a precious metal bezel now.
They do. There's two actually.
Yeah.
There was one that was released earlier last year that was like a brown dial, and now there's like a navy dial, which it looks the business. Solid gold fluted bezel, eat your heart out. I can't find the chrono.
Might be too novel.
But the other novelties are here because they have the green dial.
I don't know where I saw it, but I was like, ooh, that's nice.
I know it. I know it's good. Like I've seen the photo of it. I'm just trying to re-see the photo of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a solid choice for sure. I think my last one will end on a typical note for me. Definitely an Omega, but specifically I want an X33. I love this watch. I know so many people have so many feelings about it, but I just think it's an amazing watch. Specifically, the more recent version, the Skywalker, I think is probably the one I would want to get.
And it's a cool juxtaposition in a collection next to a Speedy.
Yeah.
Pro.
Yeah, man. I think it just I mean, because right now what's cool is like both the X33 and Speedy Pros are being flown on the International Space Station, not just by the US astronauts, but by other, space agencies, Roscosmos, JAXA, the Canadian Space Agency, ESA. There's so many that are using this.
Jeff Bezos.
Right? Like there's so many. Like I don't know if you followed, but there was a new like private space enterprise that went up like today or yesterday, called Axiom. If you were following that, like, so one of those guys, like, this was like a completely private flight to the International Space Station. Wow. They rode on the Crew Dragon Falcon 9. One of the guys is wearing like the new Silver Snoopy, like, watch. He had it strapped over his suit and
That's
wore
sick.
Snoopy in the space. But like, how gangster! Like, already an incredibly hard watch to get in general, but just like to take it and like strap it around your wrist and wear it in space, like, that's gangster. But anyway, I digress. The Skywalker X33 is probably one of my favorite multi-function high-tech course watches out there, and it's one of those watches that like people hate it because they don't know how to use it. But as soon as you figure out how to like use all the functions and stuff, it is an awesome, awesome, awesome watch. So I was at to end up on an Omega Note, but that would be my final choice. Just it's hard for me, like in that kind of money, like around $6,000 to not buy a mechanical Omega.
Yeah, no doubt. Actually, funny Omega story. On my way out the door today at work, one of my guys he grabs me. He's like, "Hey, you got to see this. I know you're into watches. You got to look at this." Right? And he was watching like a video. I think he was watching a video on the case back of the Snoopy where, he goes across and he's like, "Oh, how cool is this?" Or whatever. And and I was like, let me see, what watch is that? And he's like, "Yeah, here it is." And I was like, I don't have a Snoopy, but I was like, "Yeah, I got one of those." He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Not that one." I was like, "But I have one of those." He's like, "You have this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Right? Go into the photo vault on the phone. He's like, "Oh, damn." I'm like, like it's always funny like when people like come to a realization like that. They're like, "Wait, you have a watch that goes to space?" I'm like, "Oh, technically, yeah."
Yeah.
Like it's old, but it's cool.
Technically, all of us speedy hezzy boys out there have watches
that right.
go to space.
Hashtag hezzy boys.
Hashtag hezzy boys.
It's been a while.
For sure. But that's it, man. That's all I got.
Yeah. The only other similar to the actually that's not true. I also do want to get into Doxa, but again, I have no idea. I definitely haven't found that one yet, but that'll happen one day. And then similar to Zodiac, I've been going down the Enicar rabbit hole a lot lately, and they have some cool stuff. The old ultrasonic GMTs, the Sherpa Jet, which again kind of goes back to that twin crown that I've been chasing and don't really know where I'm landing on.
Yeah.
And the Divettes are pretty cool. Another pretty mid-sized dive watch. And again, they give you some cool old aesthetics, similar to the Captain Cook. You get a roulette date wheel.
Yeah.
A lot of those cool old style vintage vibe diver looks that I like a lot. And they all come on really cool bracelets, which is nice.
That's fantastic. There's so much cool stuff out there. So
the tough part is you have no way to vet them. But
yes. It's not a new watch for sure.
Certainly not new, but there are some decent like vintage outlets that I think if you're looking and they have one, you can at least assume or at least read the description very carefully.
Does your buddy DC Vintage Watches, does he source stuff like that outside of, I know he does Seiko's mostly, but will he do stuff outside of Seiko?
I think he would. I know he does Omega and Hoyer also, but
okay, I didn't know that.
I think he could probably use the same channels, I would assume.
Okay. Interesting. That's good to know. Well, there you go. DC Vintage Watches, in case you guys need a vintage watch plug. Yeah. You heard it here on the Wrist Cheese Radio podcast.
As for Nick.
Ask for Nick.
He runs most of the social media, so if you do DM them, that's probably who's going to answer.
There you go. You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I think that aside, closing out episode 25, again, sort of the ironic, actually, I don't know if it's ironic. I think it's more coincidental 25 to go with my 25 today. Just a big thanks to everyone for following along and kind of enjoying my journey, our journey with this, my journey in my own right. And sort of just keeping watches fun. I think that was kind of the goal on both ends. And I think as long as everybody's still having fun, we're always going to keep doing this, at least for the foreseeable future. So big thanks to everybody. Shout out to everybody who congratulated me today. Appreciate it. And other than that, I think we're going to catch you next week. Schmidt, anything else?
That's it, my friend.
All
Adios, everybody.
Be well.